I loved King Richard, the new movie out about the upbringing of Venus and Serena Williams, centered around their father, Richard Williams. Now, I'm not a film guy. I like my sports, I like my food, I like my music, but when it comes to movies and shows, it's a bit of a weak spot of mine as a person. So, I'm not here to give you an in-depth review of the acting and the cinematography and the mise-en-scène, but I can tell you this. I think Nick McCarville said it best. The story of Venus and Serena is so unimaginable, so inspiring, so incredible that not even Hollywood can dream it up. And if Hollywood did dream it up, it might get some eye rolls because of how far fetched it really is. And all you had to do to make this a great movie was to do the story justice. And they really cared about that, about getting the small details right, about respecting the sport of tennis, focusing on little things like making sure the actors knew how to replicate the technique of the people they were playing, getting the terminology right, uh, capturing the small nuances and details that make tennis unique and different. And all of that was in here. And obviously, the story itself is so unbelievably inspiring. The odds were so minuscule. The Williamses were so out of place, and they didn't care, and they pushed through that. They overcame horrible conditions and adversity, and all of that was incredible. Another thing that made the movie good was that King Richard's flaws were adequately confronted. Now, they were not emphasized. Venus and Serena were producers on this movie. They were not going to do a deep dive on all of the things that made Richard Williams bad. They weren't going to do that. But they did address how difficult it was to work alongside or with or for Richard Williams. They did address that there were family issues, there were infidelity issues. He was also just unbelievably stubborn. But the one thing that was hammered home was the visualization and the confidence and the belief that he instilled in his children. And without that, none of this would have been possible. You don't grow up in Compton and try to become a professional tennis player unless you're told that you can do it. If you're not told you can do it, you can do it, you will do it. You will do it is a much more accurate way to describe his sentiment. If you're not told you will do this, there's no way that you're ever going to believe that you can do it. Because people from Compton or similar backgrounds, they just don't usually make it. Most people don't make it. To believe that you're going to be a professional tennis player, I don't care where you came from, is a long shot. A long shot. I do want to talk about Serena in this movie. The movie was mostly about Richard. Then it was a lot about Venus. Then there's a big gap. You got Orsine, you got Rick Macy, then you got Serena. Serena is truly not a main character in the movie. I think I can say that confidently. She is not on Venus's level. She is not on Richard's level. But that's the point. And that's one of my favorite points and one of my biggest takeaways from watching this was I learned just as much about Serena Williams as I did Venus Williams, even though the movie didn't talk about Serena much at all compared to Venus. Because Serena didn't get the hype, Serena didn't get the attention, Serena arguably didn't get the same treatment from a lot of people in that circle. And nobody was talking about her. So now you fast forward and you look at hindsight at what their careers have become. Venus, all-time great Hall of Fame player. But Serena, the greatest of all time. What does Serena have? Serena has a chip on her shoulder. She plays with, as Mary Carrillo would say, fangs. A level of fire and toughness and determination that is really almost unmatched. And Venus doesn't quite have that. Despite Venus's unbelievable repertoire of talents, her athleticism, and her unbelievable game, there's a little intangible that I think most would agree Serena has. And the idea that she was underlooked and undercovered in this movie, I think is such an awesome way to understand why that was. Why Serena became the person she became. And why she plays like she does. She plays like she has something to prove. She plays like she's been disrespected, like someone has taken something from her. And you start to maybe understand why she developed that. And part of that might have been because everyone was focused on Venus and no one was paying any attention to Serena. I love that the movie did that as well. So I do stand by that. I learned just as much about Serena from this movie than I did about Venus. But ultimately, I thought all they needed to do here was get the details right to do this unbelievable sports story, one of the greatest of all time, justice. And I really do think that they took the proper care. Tennis people created this, and they did it. And they did it right. So I'm going to leave you with a quote from Will Smith, who played Richard Williams in this movie. He said, "You'd have to be a Grinch to walk out of this film and not be inspired." Well said, Will Smith. Hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.